talked about how important he is towards anyone's Legends early game, but I certainly think a Jinx pick here for Eric is going to do wonders. You can even take the Thresh alongside if you want. We've seen even EDG's series, JJ, perfectly happy to play Lee Sin into the JinJiao. Even if it's not great in the 2v2, you still end up with a ton of pressure that you can try and put down towards this bot side and turn around situations, especially in the counter gank situation.
Oh, a Lulu. Interesting.
Oh.
I would have loved to see the Thresh, but I talked about that last chapter. Like, Lulu, certainly, I prefer this to the Braum, right? It certainly sets up Jinx for massive success. The Aphelios that we talked about now can be locked in with that Thresh. And it does mean that this bottom lane, you know, there is a range advantage for LGD, but if you get caught, if you step out of position, QiuQiu is a very aggressive support player. He'll be more than happy to try and find a punish.
I also think the Lulu works quite well if you are going to go towards this Olaf pick. Not only does it enable the Jinx, but when Olaf in these early stages, if he's playing River, speed him up, give him the extra attack speed. A shield goes very far on Olaf because of the lifesteal. So there's a lot of stuff that can enable Shadow in the early stages to be the carry and bridge to the later portion of the game where Eric is going to be the main DPS. So I think you've got options here as LGD. So I like what they've gone for. It does just mean that QiuQiu can take the Thresh to support the Aphelios pickup, which Aphelios works pretty well against Olaf and if you are going for these dives. So we'll have to wait and see how LGD are going to round out their composition. If they are going to go for much more kind of frontline orientated and dive heavy composition to enable the Olaf, or if they're willing to play at range and deny both the JinJiao and the Aphelios too much action in the fights.
See Victor being banned away from Yeg, as well as the Corki taken off the board. Forge and the Kali already gone. Things like the Kassadin could be a good ban against Forge, but realistically, I don't know how much LGD are going to be worried about things like the Kassadin. It will be Zoe taken off the board instead.
I'm really surprised. I actually thought that LGD would be the ones that wanted a Corki or even the Zoe. I mean, we just talked about, hey, you're playing at range works really, really well. And Corki works wonders, right? Because you've got the opportunity to go for the poke build with the more AP orientated style, or you can just go for the crit and go for your late game scaling and play like a really strong front to back fight with the Jinx. So I'm kind of surprised to see that it's actually LGD banning away those mid laners. I imagine they still will take a blind mid here and give the counter pick to Fearness like we saw the last game, but it's still been an unusual draft from LGD, but we said the same last time as well.
Oh, might just be the Fearness pick here, blind. The Kennen being hovered. Jayce also available if they wanted to go for Jayce instead, but it will be that Kennen locked in the end. And happy faces on LGD right now. They seem pretty pleased with what they've got drafted for themselves so far. Certainly a lot of all in. And if you let that Kennen or that Olaf get near to you, you're not escaping. There's going to be so much follow-up CC from that all in. Over to the side of anyone's Legend though, towards a Ryze in the mid lane.
I'm curious to see what the plan is. I think Ryze is probably your most staple bet or something like the Twisted Fate if they wanted to. And with the idea being, hey, if this Jinx and Lulu are going to be consistently pushing into the bot lane because of, you know, the double range champions plus the range advantage, let's see if we can interrupt that with some sort of roaming mid laner. It does, though, kind of leave me questioning, like, what does Yeji want to go for here? Because, I mean, Corki could have worked wonders into that. Zoe would have been great, but they banned that away already. The Victor gone, too, so it looks like they might go with the Orianna. I actually don't like it. I think Ori ends up shoved in pretty easily in that mid lane and doesn't really give you the opportunity to play towards the Ryze. Maybe Syndra, but even then, it's not stellar. It feels like you've kind of painted yourselves into corners, LGD. So they will go with the Orianna. This still means Forge can push in pretty easily in mid lane and look for these early roams. Especially even now, pre-6, he has the opportunity to go for it if they can link up with Xiaohao.
This definitely feels like a kind of set up Eric kind of composition, right? This Orianna, while you can be somewhat of a carry in your own right, realistically, a lot of shielding, a lot of protection for Eric, and also just CC, right? A ton of area of effect CC to be able to stop the likes of anyone's Legend trying to get onto that backline. And at the same time, most of anyone's Legends aren't exactly trying to get into melee range. You've got to
Orianna does in this situation, but I still think LGD have ways to play it, and it should be all right. It's just pre-6. I feel like you've got a lot of opportunities here for anyone's Legend.
All right, so anyone's legend, the guys to keep your eyes on in this early game is LGD. Try for another cheeky level 1 play. It worked out for them in game number 1. Won't do this time as they were spotted on that ward, but at least they'll get themselves an early reward. And that'll mean that Fearness is actually a high enough level, or high enough XP to get level 2 off of that first wave. So it could be a little bit painful for ZDZ up on that top side. Dagda, are you big on conspiracy theories? Where do you sit when it comes to conspiracies in general? Because
I mean, I'm not very far down the rabbit hole. I'm not like,
yeah.
I'm sure
But
there are conspiracies that are
You'll
true, but I'm not like, what?
You'll dabble enough to watch a YouTube video, you know, that kind of. Because let me pitch something to you, right?
All right.
I'm just saying. We've got a lot of memes in chat about Arcane, right? I know Arcane's a big meme right now, but it's a big coincidence that suddenly Victor, Jinx, and Jayce are all meta immediately after that show. Eric is in big trouble here. Betty's just pushing forward. He's looking for 2 kills on this one. There's first blood. JinJiao, the next target, as Chocho moves forward. Once again, waiting for that CC to come off of cooldown. And with a Calibrum to boot, it's a double kill for Betty. It's easy pickings in the bottom lane.
I'm really not sure what the thought process was for LGD's bot side there. Like, you have the summoner spell advantage for Absolute Legends, right? Because you start play as Thresh, you end up with a bunch of extra damage, but it's nothing that's cleansable, as Fearness taking a beating as well. Yeah, so you end up with the heal advantage coming through for Betty. You end up with the matching the double ignite. It's kind of odd that LGD decided that they really wanted to go for that, especially with the wave there. So you end up just losing out heavily as LGD. We'll see it here. And anyone's legend pick up the advantage. Like, the wave is there. You're standing in the bush. Like, the back creeps instantly turn over, including one of the melee minions. And you've got that advantage. So even though the Guardian's there, it's nowhere near enough with all the creeps dealing that extra damage too. So I don't know what LGD were thinking. You just need to play it safe, and you got control of the wave anyway. So why try and get fancy with it?
I think especially the fact that you're running Cleanse, right? Cleanse does nothing for you in this fight, aside from removing that ignite. But like, comparatively to a heal in a level 1 fight like that, it's not going to be doing enough. Definitely feels like a good advantage now in the bottom lane in favor of Betty. And I love that Betty realized this, right? He acknowledged it and just walks forward, just starts hitting Eric. He's like, I'm not looking for 1 kill here. I'm looking for the double kill. And that would be the crab taken by Xiaohao, who will have pretty much infinite priority for the next few minutes in this bottom lane.
Yeah, you can see, though, I don't know if he'll have infinite priority. Still, the double range between both Lulu and Jinx make it really tough for him to hold on to this. And even just the range advantage that Eric has with the splash makes it a bit tough. So should be able to try and keep nicely in check here. Shadow now trying to see if he can right the wrongs of his bot side, but Wave not really in a position to do so. More or less just making sure that Xiaohao can't show up before Eric gets hit.
Xiaohao off on the side is toying with the idea of trying to make something happen, or maybe just trying to read what Shadow is doing, right? Maybe just trying to be in the right place at the right time in case something happens from LGD. But the Calibrum goes wide, does not stop the recall. They haven't actually spotted those recalls just yet. But I think they'll realize suddenly that they need to get this wave pushed in. They need to get a reset off themselves. But that Noon Quiver already in pocket. And look at the other side. Eric is like, you know what? This is a cool lane now. We got to play this on slow and steady. We are not fighting anytime soon.
I am worried, though, that you're still going to see anyone's legend make some of these early plays. Like, Xiaohao already kind of playing around this bot side, but with where Xiaohao's pathing, he should make it down to the bot side around the time the Forge hits his level 6. So could have the opportunity to go for something there, or he can't really push against Forge just with how effectively Ryze clears that wave. So I'm curious to see if anyone's legend can try and set up some sort of play. Especially when Fearness going to be forced back here and have to use his TP to get topside. It feels like you've got all the pieces of the puzzle.
That sentence was a bit of a puzzle as well, to be honest.
It was. Yeah, we got there, though. I had to message the manufacturer for an extra puzzle piece because I lost one, but we got there. Yeah.
Do you know, I had a board game that was a really expensive board game, and it got damaged in transit when I moved back from America, and I messaged them to ask if I could get a new box. I was happy to buy another box. They don't do it. They just refused. I was like, man, I don't know. Board game companies these days, eh? Yeg's in trouble as Xiaohao moves in. Flash away from Yeg. He will be able to survive. So nicely done there. He wasn't puzzled by it at all after all of that, Dagda.
Yeah, it does open up Forge to make that run that we were talking about, though. And although it doesn't look like they'd be able to actually get into the bottom lane, question mark, because they aren't really sure themselves. Anyone's Legend should be able to secure the dragon off that. So at least they are trying to make some proactive plays, and it should net them this as Shadow, though. Face checks.
Oh, Xiaohao's real low on HP, and Forge realizes he's got to get out and dodge, but the shockwave ruins everything. And suddenly he goes down. Now this Drake chunking out the whole squad of AL as they jump on in. QiuQiu looking for more. There's one. As Yeg goes down, and it's QiuQiu low on HP. Shadow finishes yet another one off. This is pure chaos on the Rift, but Betty is here. He already had 2 kills for himself, but it won't matter as Eric finishes him off. And now looking for QiuQiu as well. One more auto would do the trick. A zap, anything would finish him off. The zap finds it. The slow is there, but no chase from Eric will not finish the kill.
And they're just going to go back and pick up that wave, but messy from anyone's Legend. I mean, I'd rather that you actually commit to the play bot or just back away in that scenario, right? Like, you don't really have control over bot wave to stop them from just literally making this play here when they move in. Also, the fact that Forge moves up the top side is the worst spot to be. If he moves down bot lane with Xiaohao, he can get a lantern off QiuQiu, you can reset and set up a front back fight, but Forge out of the picture now, and it just sets up for LGD, who, once the bot lane arrives, can clean up this fight.
Yeah, and you know, it's a reasonable attempt from Betty. I get where he's going with that, right? He's already got a Noon Quiver, felt like he had to try and impact the fight, but 1v3, mate. I think you're better off trying to hide in the jungle and get a cheeky recall off. I don't think it would have happened either way, but yeah, I don't know. Unfortunate for the side of LGD, because that's a lot of their... Oh, sorry, unfortunate for the side of anyone's Legend. That's a lot of their lead now gone. The shutdown taken off of Betty. And suddenly, we've got Yeg with a kill. We've got Shadow with a kill as well. The top side for LGD feeling a lot stronger than they were before that fight.
And it should have been a victory for anyone's Legend, right? You're playing...
Oh, that shockwave was perfect. Pulls him as far back as possible. But QiuQiu is in the perfect place at the perfect time. Eric's in trouble, though. That's going to be an ulti under the tower from Betty. And about 1 billion shuriken to boot. Xiaohao flies in from the side, finishes that kill off. Very nicely done by AL.
All right, bringing it back for anyone's Legend, right? Now they get the kills on bot. They should be able to, especially with the shurikens that Betty has, take that bot lane turret plates as well. Answer for the potential plates that Shadow will be able to get. So nicely done by anyone's Legend, because I was about to say they were playing around Dragon, playing around their bot side, and they still lost the fight. It wasn't going to bode well, but at least now, righting some of the wrongs that we just saw.
Fearness maybe looking for an all-in on this top side as well. Drops a ward in the brush. That's signaling that he wants to go for this one. Slicing Maelstrom available. Another stun will come down. ZDZ's in trouble. And Shadow's there to head him off as well. ZDZ with nowhere to run. Each jungler making plays on opposite sides of the map as Fearness picks up the kill.
Unfortunate for ZDZ. Looked like he maybe could have turned that play around, but once Shadow showed up, you could just see the regret in his eyes that he'd burnt his flash. And with no TP up either, this could be top lane turret going down. You've got Shadow here. Fearness does a good amount of damage, but just going to shove in the wave and look to reset.
Yeah, Kennen not exactly the greatest at finishing those towers off, so I think just deciding to play that one safe, at least for the time being, as Fearness will get a good reset and all of that. Still having that Herald to play with. And I'm curious, Dagda, and I think I know the answer already, let's be honest. Where is that Herald likely to go down to?
Thank you, Mr. Cameraman, for bringing us to the lane. It's going to get down to...
Emphasis on the word down.
Because, yeah, if you can get this Jinx ahead, phenomenal. And we're not ahead, honestly, catch up. Because right now, Betty already has a Gale Force completed at 10 minutes. He's fairly large at this stage, having got those 2 kills, the 2 turret plates, the assists. So you're going to need to try and get this Jinx back into it. Otherwise, like you can see with Xiaohao, who has been playing around this bot side, they can look for dives and you have a ton of execute damage with that kill.
They do. And with the Infernum as well, it is actually quite difficult for LGD to push this bottom lane out. When when you're behind in Aphelios, and especially when he has the right weapons, it's really, really difficult to step into the lane because he's just a ball of stats that just out damages you every single time. So it might be difficult to actually get that Herald playoff that we're talking about.
I would agree if I saw better communication between Xiaohao and Forge. Like right now, there's like been a couple of times, like even just maybe 30 seconds ago, where Forge had mid-wave shoved in. They could have tried to set up a play for a dive onto the bot lane turret and like shut down the potential for LGD to make a play there, but there's just little interaction between mid-jungle for anyone's legend. And now with Xiaohao reset, you're kind of setting up the opportunity for LGD to go for these sort of plays, especially as we start 3 minutes to get to the point where we have unleashed teleports. You can 100% see several people from LGD making their way down.
See if it'll unleash ZDZ and Fearness and get them out onto the map, get them involved in some of these plays. Certainly for Fearness, it feels like he was the driving force in game number 1 on his Akali. It was not a pick that we expected, but it was certainly a pick he was able to make work. And now at 12 minutes on the clock, Drake is up once again. It's a mountain this time, which could mean it could be a Chemtech Drake. But we'll have to wait and see once this next Drake goes down. But so far, neither team posturing too aggressively for it. Feels like AL are trying to get control of the area. Xiaohao will actually commit to starting this one off.
LGD kind of screwed it on the setup. Fearness had completely moved down and then kind of realized, wait a second, I've left ZDZ on my turret as a Jayce, and he can very quickly take that down. So LGD forced them back away, knowing that ZDZ would be able to either come in with the TP or just trade the objective for the turret. So LGD end up trying to then reset, and it gives the opportunity for anyone's legend to make it. So a little bit messy from LGD. Although, as I say that now, trying to see if they can go for an invade on top side with pressure top.
We're having some aggressive souls today. That's 3 out of 4 today have been Infernal Souls, and the other one was Cloud, just to try and balance it out a little bit. But the blue denied there as Betty has stepped way too far forward here. He's in a 2v1. The Flame Choppers weren't blind, but I don't think it'll matter. But Betty gets a lot of lifesteal. Gale forces in, but Eric has a Lulu, so it just doesn't matter. Betty goes down to a zap. Very nicely played by LGD, keeping him at arm's length.
And that was the damage you can see coming out from Betty, and he's got the right guns and he has that opportunity with the Gale Force, but unfortunately 2 greater than 1 in that scenario is Forge running for the hills.
Or at least for the river, he will be able to get out to safety here, but actually, I don't know if that's safe or not. Guys, it... Surely you just kill him there. Surely he's more valuable than 1 turret plate. I don't know. I guess deciding it wasn't worth chasing, but hey, they got a TP out of it, so maybe it was worth it.
Yeah, TP back to the mid, and now Forge will have to reset as well, so at least you get well, a good amount of summoner spells on that ult out as well, but every time this game we've seen that ult from Forge has been defensive. There's just been no real setup for the Ryze to play around Betty like we thought there would, and it's given LGD the opportunity to bypass the early game that we're kind of worried about and get to a point where they can now play off of strong team fights. ZDZ is kind of the only one that I'm looking at going, okay, this guy has the opportunity to carry through side lanes, but it feels like their team fight just isn't going to match up. So they're relying now on this Jayce to see if he can go up against Fearness and use the fact that he's got about a 600 gold lead for himself, or actually there you go, 1,000 gold lead for himself to take over these side lane pressures.
See if it's going to work out for him, but crucially that bottom lane play has evened up the AD carries at least a little bit. It's not quite, you know, let's not beat around the bush. The fella is still definitely ahead, but Eric trouble. Chocho goes wide on the bush, on the hook, sorry. Okay, that's a huge amount of damage onto Eric though. His shadow moves in, just flashes under the tower, but not quite on the same page. As he backs off, the wild growth comes through. It's not quite going to work out.
Yeah, very rare. There's a lot of anyone's Legends members coming down, and G here.
Shockwave comes through, bit of damage answered though as the Moonlight Vigil goes a little wide on this one, but still working for AL so far. Staying grouped to support. Shadow trying to finish off the kill on Xiaohao, but he cannot close the gap, and it'll be 2 more for anyone's Legend, and it feels like LGD a little out of sorts in this game, not managing to make it work like they did in game number 1. Now trying to get chased down. Forge over the wall has a blast cone, and he's got 2 sitting ducks at the other side of the wall. The Rune Prism is there. And you see Xiaohao trying to steal the kill at the end, but it's a double for Forge.
Yeah, and this is now pretty large for anyone's Legends, right? We just said, hey, best way for them to probably try and play this out is through side lanes and using the fact that you've got Jayce who's ahead. I was a bit concerned about how Forge was going to do, but 2 kills now for the Ryze sets him up nicely to take over the side lane as well. And it's just messy, as you said, Munch, right? Going in aggressive under the tower, they decide to back away, but re-engage after using 2 ultimates on both the Olaf and the Lulu. They just don't have anything left in the tank to try and finish this out. You even see there, Xiaohao survives for so damn long with the ultimate of his own. They just can't finish off the low health members of anyone's Legend.
And they just had no idea that Forge was over this wall. Not the foggiest there, Forge. Able to capitalize. Great positioning from him to find that angle to get into the fight. Has him never cross-finish now. And it feels like we had a pretty slow early game on this one, Dagda. But it's going to start to get messy. You can feel that both teams are itching. They know who they are. They know what their lifeblood is. They know that it's time to get scrappy on this one. Forge taking a bit of a hit, but trades it back well. On to Yeg here. It looks like they'll have to back away. Shadow was just waiting in the wings as we get a push on the top side from ZDC.
So if LGD play this correctly, they should actually be able to defend against the side lane push from AL. Eric wins the mid push, which makes it, as you can see, like makes it really difficult for Betty to step up and actually start hitting onto the tower. It also gives Eric the opportunity to like shove in mid. So as long as they can keep control of their sides with like vision, they have the opportunity to push in mid and then group or collapse onto one of the Anyone's Legend members that are overextended in side lanes. But right now, Anyone's Legend are just kind of giving up on turrets and trying to make a play for themselves on top.
Oh, second item collector here for the Aphelios. People on Twitter everywhere are fuming. They cannot believe their eyes. That looks pretty decent sometimes. A lot of squishy members to go for. Not going to be great against the Olaf, though. Xiaohao grabs himself that Herald to work with. Just going to be able to continue to hammer away on this top tower. Herald can go towards the mid lane. Anyone's Legend in complete control of this map right now. Doing a really good job to maintain their control and continue to build this lead. 3,000 in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, LGD just not really responding, right? You had Yeji pushing in the bot side, so he wasn't in a position to actually play off of that. Fearness was showing on top as well, so Anyone's Legend knew they were safe to keep up the pressure, and it's not like you have too much from Eric, because he can't push forward in case Anyone's Legend decide to teeter on in behind him. So, unfortunately, LGD just moving out to not really understanding how to defend properly. And now Anyone's Legend get control, they can reset, and look to come out on the map once more.
They'll try to get back on the map, and they'll try and maintain control here. It is 2 Drakes to 1, though. That's the advantage that LGD have for themselves, so at least there's something in their pocket to be working with. See if they can make things happen there. Good rocket coming through. It's not quite enough to finish off Cho. Still getting a bit of damage down. And it does feel like, you know, I was saying that this game was going to speed up in pace back then. I was very clearly wrong. And you can understand why, right? A lot of scaling on both sides. But just, and I know a lot of color casters, not a huge fan of this question, but I'm going to throw it to you anyway, Dagda, because I'm that guy. Like, blanket statement, in terms of scaling, who are we liking in the late game?
Well, it's not really going to be a case of like scaling as much as how the game is played. My concern for LGD right now is like, look at where Ryze's position is. Forge shoves in the wave fully. He can then go and realm warp in towards mid with Jayce, who's just moved across, even with Rift Herald, and outnumber LGD in the mid, which is literally what they're trying to do right now. And this is how Anyone's Legend want to try and play at this game, right? Consistently finding moments where they can outnumber LGD on the push. But if you end up grouped, this is where LGD can find teamfight victory.
Keep my eyes on Eric in these situations. Look towards Yeg to try and find like peeling shockwaves, right? As everyone groups up to try and chase Eric, that's the opportunity for Yeg. Yeji. Yeji is so hard to say.
Just Yeji.
Yeah, but I'm not cool enough to say that, you know. Here we go. I guess we're just gonna go for Baron. Sod it. We'll realm warp over, and Shadow, I think he knows something's up here because everybody suddenly vanished around the Baron area. Let's take another look. Oh, they're on the Baron. Who could have guessed it? Absolute legends. Gonna have to be forced away there. And it was a legendary attempt. You got to give him that, but it's not going to work out for now.
Fearness going forward, but no ultimate, and he's dead.
Oh, I don't know about that one. Just gets pulled and finished off. Big shock blast, but a shockwave to answer it as well. And now 3 versus 5 here, but Eric's still alive. That's crucial as Betty flashes forward, trying to finish these members off. Doesn't really have the damage to do it. Doesn't have the range to do it either. What? Oh, big shock blast. Nearly finishes off JinJiao. Maybe this is the opportunity for the Baron after all.
You're still going to end up with a 50-50 though, right? Because Shadow is still here, has flash to get into the pit. I'm not sure. Eric should have a ward that he can place down. Still has the blue trinket as well. So there's a lot of ways for Shadow to get in here and steal this away. I'm not sure if anyone's Legend want to risk the 50-50. And even the poke that Eric can have over the wall, yeah, looks like they're just going to back away.
You know, I agree with the analysis there. I agree with the decision to back away. But I'm watching LGD versus anyone's Legend. I want to see the 50-50s. I want to see the shenanigans. I want to see just pure chaos. And I feel like I'm watching a game where the teams are acknowledging their win conditions and playing to those. And that's just not my style of League of Legends tech.
I'm really curious how LGD plays the next few minutes here, though. Because they've 2 options, right? You go and try and hard force for the Dragon fight, but with the quicker resets coming through from anyone's Legends, they're actually going to get to Dragon first. It may be better to just bait Baron and see if you can draw anyone's Legend into Fearness Ultimate, where you can actually hit people with it, unlike what we just saw.
Yeah, unfortunate ulti there. Coming out on the Kennen as well. And I like the flash forward from Betty. I like what he's trying to do, but couldn't make it happen. Didn't have the damage to finish them off for the time being. But perhaps once he finishes his... perhaps once he finishes his Infinity Edge, opportunity there. But Drake going to be coming up, and anyone's Legend very much in control of the pit for now. Perhaps LGD could look to try and make a trade with this Baron. They have vision control, but they're a bit nervous to try and start anything off.
Yeah, they're trying to trade it for control, see if they can clear out all the vision, and then draw anyone's Legend in like we just talked about, right? Seeing if they can have positioning for Fearness where you can get onto some of these key members. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they just started up, right? You got Eric with a ton of damage. Shadow's going to tear through that thing as well. But unfortunately, the waves just aren't really in a position for them. So right now, they've given up Dragon. They've had to give up their position on Baron, and it means that anyone's Legend can actually just go in and check this.
So Dragon taking 2 apiece now. Does feel like anyone's Legend are in a good spot, but that gold lead has gradually been shrinking over the course of this game, Dagda, where we saw, I think it was about 5,000 in favor of anyone's Legend earlier on, and sure, they have managed to get themselves an extra Drake, but unfortunately, to extend their lead. And again, we're seeing this Ryze build, Dagda. Forge just going basically full tank on the Ryze. You can just stack any kind of tanky banner items and they will also give you damage. It is obnoxious to say the very least, but it is a very, very strong build.
And the shield it gives you just means you end up like so much tankier than usual. You're obviously going to go towards the Frozen Heart as well, which makes you really difficult for the likes of Eric and Shadow to deal with. It all kind of comes together quite nicely to make you quite tanky while still having a decent amount of damage, as you pointed out. But it's kind of a question of like, how well is he actually going to slot into these fights? Because although he's got a lot of armor, it feels like there's so much magic damage coming through from LGD that a shockwave, the maelstrom coming through from Fearness could still tear through him regardless.
But Eric is definitely the guy to look at, right? Where if he gets time to just auto attack away with a Lulu behind him, with everyone else protecting him, he will take over a fight. He's got that rapid fire cannon to try and stay at longer range, stay away from everyone as long as possible in these fights. But again, anyone's Legend happy to just start this Baron off. They get spotted by a blue trinket, so they just back away again. And this feels like the story of the game so far, right? Where anyone's Legend start the Baron, nope, cancel, go back.
But there's no reason for anyone's Legend to be doing this. They can just play side lanes, but looks like we're going to 50-50 this bunch, maybe? Question? As anyone's Legend backs away once more.
They're not sure. They sort of want to back away. They sort of don't want to back away. JoJo goes wide on the hook. Baron will reset. LGD, you don't have to commit if you don't want for this one. They realize it. They go mid lane instead. And anyone's Legend, it feels like they're a little bit lost. It feels like they're a little out of sorts. They're not sure how to play the game at this point. They're not sure whether to go to the Baron. They're not sure I mean, that seems like the only option they can think of. They should be probably playing side lanes, but yeah, Baron is the call again and again, and it's just not working.
And even the difference in recalls here is going to hurt them, right? Because Forge was shoved in top. That'll get collected on that top side. It means that then by the time Jayce has got his wave into position, there's someone else to clear that. So these waves are just going to end up ping-ponging. And now with 2 minutes until Dragon and LGD getting fairly close to critical mass, it feels like the team fight should go their direction. The key item that I'm waiting on is Eric to finish that last Whisper, or the Lord Dominic's Regard. Once he has that, he can actually get through a lot of the lateral armor that the team has. Even Forge as well, going to be putting up quite a fight against Eric's DPS. So that is such a crucial item for him now, and he's so close to having it done.
Yeah, that argument about LDR versus Collector, right? Well, when there's a Ryze on the enemy team these days, LDR wins that very comfortably. It's not even close. Definitely feels like when it comes to later game team fights, Eric is going to have so much range to work with and be able to just relax in these fights, just keep blasting autos out. If he can get 2 more items, if he can finish the LDR and get an Infinity Edge, then, well, it's dire straits, I think, at that point for anyone's legend. But for the time being, LGD are just kicking back and relaxing, you know? They're okay to lose a couple of jungle camps. So long as they don't actually lose that Baron, they're fine. And Drake is coming up in 45 seconds. It wouldn't surprise me based on what we've been seeing recently if LGD just forego it completely.
We're back to Baron, Munch. There is no other place on the map. Lanes don't exist. Dragon doesn't exist. It's all about this Baron.
Look, they haven't died doing it yet, have they? So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It hasn't lost them the game yet, so it must be okay. They're going to keep committing here. There is complete vision here for LGD. They've got an Orianna ball. They've got Undertoast as well. Here we go. AL trying to force the fight in the meantime. Baron down to 2K. Oh, the damage from Betty is unbelievable. And a Realm Warp to finish it off as well. There's one for Xiaohao. They got the Baron and they got 4 kills. Sod your analysis, Dagda. It was the perfect play.
As long as Eric isn't there, a 4 versus 5 is fine. And Eric, what are you doing, buddy? They're just gone. No they just pop them.
No comment.
Munch, I think that's game.
It might well be. They've got Baron to keep this wave alive. They've got a good 20 seconds on everyone. They can push real quick. And after stalling out for like a solid 10 minutes, not knowing how to push this forward, AL suddenly just get themselves a Baron and end the game like that. And you know what? We're going to 3.
I thought that we'd end up having, you know, play through sides, collapse on mid, see if they can, like, set up some sort of plays with the roam advantage that they have. But although we kind of called at the start that ZDZ was going to have to step up and be the big carry with the gold lead that he had, the one shockwave to win the game and set up that big fight was not what I expected.
Yeah, that was definitely a game. That was a fairly long one. But a bit of a struggle for anyone's legend. And I have to say, even though they get the win at the end of that one, it definitely doesn't feel like a super positive step forward here for the side of anyone's legend. It feels like there's a lot of room for improvement. But the same can be said for LGD, right? Like, the fact that you're losing this game, it felt like they understood their win condition. It felt like they knew what was going on, but not really managing to make it work out. And I don't know. I feel like both of these teams leaving a lot to be desired on the table at the end.
Yeah, I think for, like, I can give a bit of a caveat for LGD, right? They're not playing with their full roster. I mean, maybe you can do the same for anyone's legend. They don't have Maple involved either. So this isn't the final forms of both these squads, but certainly you can see that both teams kind of lacking a strong voice. And it feels like even though LGD are kind of like happy to go with like the Olaf and stuff to counteract the JinJiao, it just hasn't quite been working in these early stages. I think there's going to need to be some sort of change on the drawing board to bring them back in for game number 3. Because as we've seen, anyone's legend, when they get these leads, it may not be clean, but they're getting the win when they get these big early advantages.
Like 100% of the time that they've managed to get a big advantage in the mid game, they've won that game. So, you know, the stats don't lie. The stats just don't lie. Beautiful stuff here. Very clean gameplay, you know, by the book League of Legends. If FBX can do it, if FBX just start Baron every game and they beat RNG, well, you just start Baron, right? Surely that's the conclusion.
This is what the VOD review is. It's like, what do you do? It's like, just points at the screen. Start Baron. But all roads lead to Baron. But look, either way, I think there's still a lot for anyone's legend to try and work through, right? Like, look at Forge's DPS. He was not really involved in fights. I want to see him, if you're going to go for a Ryze, actively moving around the map and helping and working and linking up with Xiaohao. Betty and Jojo played phenomenally on this Aphelios and Thresh, even picking up the double kill from level 1. So I feel like there was a lot of kind of wins that went in favor of anyone's legend early that probably shouldn't have. So if we're coming into game number 3, I want to see them being more proactive to actually set themselves up for success in this.
Yeah, I liked game 1. There was a lot of proactivity in game 1 from both sides, and it was great. I loved every second of it. Game number 2, a little bit slower. In fact, a lot slower and a lot less proactivity. So I'm hoping a little bit more of game 1, a little bit less of game 2. We'll have to see. We're back in a couple of minutes' time to find out.